The ability to put these into digital slabs can also increase the visual appearance of the asset. Similar to in the physical world, a lot of people just put their books in slabs because they look better. How can we take that excitement and emotion and reason that you would want to grade your physical asset and represent that to the digital collecting space?
Physical grading, it's all about condition, which isn't relevant for digital collectibles because they are always in a good condition.
How can you grade a digital asset? There's no physicality.
We've forged a grading formula methodology that we think's really, it's important to us, it works for us.
How would you describe the main problem DGC is trying to solve?
The grade comes from the number, the value comes from the market.
All right, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we are taking a closer look at DGC, the digital grading company. For that, we have Daniel and Chris here with us. Welcome, guys. Great to have you.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, good to speak again, Jan.
Welcome back. Definitely. I'm really interested in that topic, and I told you guys before, there's a big learning curve for me on digital grading, and at the moment I'm a little bit critical on that topic. But after the discussion, we will see how my stance is then. So I would say just let us start right in. And for anyone who hasn't heard of DGC yet, who exactly is DGC? Who's behind the company? Who are the founders? And how did the team come together?
A group of passionate digital collectors who were born from the Veve ecosystem and just started thinking about different ways that these hold value. And it all, of course, comes down to the edition number that you see minted directly on the assets that are in the app. And then, of course, that started to expand. Like, where else do you see edition number collecting? Is this unique to digital assets? No. There are number collectors, numerical collectors in dollar bills and stamps and coins and very, very traditional forms of collecting. People are very passionate about angel numbers and special birthday numbers and all kinds of different things that are out in the world. And so we kind of started, Daniel and I, putting a concept of a grading system together that was born from the early days of when comics and crypto first put their list out, which was basically grading from the lowest to the highest mints. And other two members of our team, Denny Mazarel, if you see him on X, and Scotchy. And so we have a global team of people from all corners of the world that all shared this similar passion, where we were noticing things about mint numbers, as they're commonly called, were outperforming standard mints. And so we said, there's something here. Let's start to investigate this. And the team is, from the get-go, very, very passionate about looking for very specific things on numbers that can assign personal value, potentially market value, but something that differentiates the asset from maybe the mainstream or just what the masses were going after. And so that's where we started putting these ideas together. And this goes back, Daniel, 2-3 years? It's been a long time coming. So it's been a lot of work put in.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Or Daniel?
Yeah, no, it's exactly what you said there. I think we had this vision, maybe Chris and I, when we were doing it independently or had the idea independently, maybe had different methodologies slightly in terms of what we've come to, but we've brought this team together, being myself and Chris and our co-founders, and we've forged a grading formula methodology that we think's really, it's important to us, it works for us. And it's now, I guess, up to the community, those that wish to participate in grading, whether they use us or another grading company in the future. So, it's just gonna be. I'm sure we'll come onto it, but this is just our iteration and our attempt to bring something new to the space.
Yeah. Okay, so as I understand correctly, it was born out of a passion from you guys for special mint collecting, and because there was not a grading system for especially that. So what is like a little bit hard to grab for me is like on physical grading, it's all about condition.
Right.
That's a point which isn't relevant for digital collectibles because they are always in a good condition, right?
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
basically manufactured exactly the same. They're minted onto these blockchain systems. The asset formats are very similar. The differences are, of course, in the cover variants. And if you look at Veve, right, we have exclusive rare, ultra rare. We've got common, uncommon, and secret rare. Platforms like DC, right, they'll change the format of the cover and it's fading, from the legendary,
Yeah.
very sharp and clean, down to the common, uncommons, which look tattered and battered. Um, that was an attempt to really recreate the physicality of a comic book, with how
Mhm.
they degrade over time if they're not respected. And so that's not going to happen with digital assets. They're not going to degrade like a physical book. And so that's probably a lot of the bulk of the feedback that we get. Like, how can you grade a digital asset? There's no
Mhm.
physicality. That's the difference though. When you're grading books for physical nature, torn pages, bent pages, yellow off white, right? Missing pages. Did someone, I know I did this a lot as a kid, right? Took a pen out and I was drawing on the
Mhm.
ads, of the old army men and all that kind of stuff. Ruined the book. And so, yeah, you can't really do that on a digital. But
Yeah.
the thing that we've clearly noticed, whether you believe it or not, is the fact that very low mints sell at very high premiums and very special numbers sell at very high premiums. If you've seen some of the notes going out on X lately, like a 1 of 1, where you're the um, mint number 1, for instance, right, on a stamp, highly,
Yeah.
highly coveted. If you have a 1962 Amazing Fantasy 15, if you have a 1939 Marvel Comics number 1, highly significant. And so in the world of anything, right, you can grade just about any asset in existence based on certain factors. And what we are going after are a variety of categories that
Mhm.
represent a variety of collecting types. And so it's not always just who has the best historical mint number, right? There are lots of examples where people have collected beautiful sets and curations and palindromes and binaries. And we have collectors. We always say, like Ben CF, right? He collects the 1987s. That's his birth
Mhm.
year. That might not grade extremely high unless you're a fellow 1987 birth year, but
Yeah.
certainly the ability to put these into digital slabs can also increase the physical, or the visual appearance of the asset.
Mhm.
Similar to in the physical world, a lot of people just put their books in slabs because they look better and
Mhm.
Mhm.
have a grade on it. And so that was something that we talked a lot about with the team, is how can we help enhance the enjoyment, the collectability of these assets? Because one of the things I always found, I've got a lot of comics in Veve, way more than I have in real world, and which I know
Yeah.
makes my significant other quite happy because I'm not taking up a lot of space in the house. But the way that I was able to visualize those assets in my phone, for instance, they were all very standardized. It was difficult to maybe find them all the time. Not all of them are as meaningful to me as others. So again, how could I even differentiate that, enhance that value, make that experience more enjoyable? And that was part of what we came up with the slabbing designs and creation, to say, let's represent a variety of collecting types, historical numbers, fancy numbers, reference numbers, all kinds of things that, if anything, helps educate our user base and potential audiences that there are a lot of extra fun ways to get in here and collect, as opposed to just buying the cheapest number on the floor. Um, the other thing that always bugged us, and then I'll throw it over to you, Daniel, for your ideas too, but was just when you see someone list something in the market and that, let's just say it's at a cheap floor, below retail, whatever that might be, and it's a significant number that they didn't know. And for whatever reason, didn't do their homework, didn't think that mints mattered or whatever. Someone grabs that and instantly the price is 10x and you feel horrible. And we would love to be at a point where no one ever has to feel horrible about making a mistake. And so if we can just help educate and show that there are a variety of ways that people will collect, tying back to physical collecting with, like I said, palindrome collecting on US dollar bills is a big market business. And so we know it exists. How could we recreate that with digital to make this a little more fun and entertaining for everybody?
What if your favorite heroes and icons could live in the palm of your hand? That's now possible with Veve. Veve isn't replacing the way you've always collected. It's expanding your love for fandom in a whole new way. From the Human Torch, Grogu, and the Mandalorian to Darth Vader and many more, all waiting for you. Every collectible is officially licensed by the world's biggest brands and made limited through blockchain technology, giving you true digital ownership of what you collect. Discover Veve today and kickstart your digital collection with 10 free gems to start your journey into this new and exciting world of digital collecting. Use my link in the video description to sign up. Happy collecting, and back to the video. Daniel, I want to ask you, like, so how would you describe like the main problem DGC is trying to solve? Because Chris already mentioned, like, for example, in Veve, we already have the rarity tiers and the fixed edition sizes. What exactly, besides like the optical look, does DGC or the DGC grading add on top on the existing existing classifications of those collectibles?
Yeah. I don't think we're trying to fix a problem per se. I think what we're doing here is giving another option, another dynamic that I would say enhances the collecting experience to some individuals that, like Chris said, may either appreciate the special mint stroke special edition numbers, or just simply like the items slabbed and looking a little bit more in a fancier fashion. So I think that's probably more. And again, we've born this out of something that, you know, is something that we enjoy. So, you know, and again, we know it's not going to be for everyone, but I actually personally prefer to see my comics and collectibles visually slightly different to what they are on the app. I love it, what they're like.
And by the way, the visuals look amazing. I have to definitely give you credit for those. They look sick.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I think, you know, going back to Chris's point, you know, we listen to all feedback. I think that's what's been, you know, really important to us. Whether it's something that we feel is just that we're fully aware of, and we know it's just it's feedback for feedback's sake, or if it's something that's really credible. But we do get a fair message on there saying, well, like, how can you grade these? Like you rightly said, Jan. You know, it's you know, they're all the same, you know, but the edition number for us is really the important part. And like, I know this might become old news quite quick, but, you know, we've just seen today Randy's gold and silver logo, edition number 41 sold for $20,000. I don't know what the floor is, but I want to say it's probably about 4x floor. You know, that's because
I think like 30 million OMI roughly is the floor.
Yeah. And then the Ryu drop, which might have happened by the time this comes out, you know, the edition number 1987, Comics and Crypto have got a 4K bounty out there. I think Wolverine 13 just upped his to 4,100. I know Draco is going to go serious on that. So again, this is, I don't think it's just the 1987 on that one as well. And I want to say, is it Veve Serum, who's one of your German counterparts, Jan? He put out a great article yesterday, which did a bit of a deep dive on some of the other edition numbers that might be important to Street Fighter. Just looking even things like the day and the month combination in edition number format relating to when it actually come out. So, so again, yeah, we know that this isn't probably just the visual. This is given to something maybe that is to a certain demographic up there that enjoys this. And something we'll probably come to. We're going to be launching very soon different sort of variant to the actual slab where it's not focused on the edition number as precisely. So going back to Chris's point, you've got Ferryman, again, another German counterpart there
Yeah.
who's got, I want to say 1989 Ferryman, isn't he? We can actually grade sets and collections. That's very much in the work. So it doesn't actually have to have a grading number, but we can do something where it actually really showcases the collection or a certain item that might be meaningful for someone.
Yeah.
I suppose similar to what you're doing now with the highlighting collectors in the community. This would actually give someone a platform to go and talk about
Mhm.
their item, their edition number, and it makes it a little bit more intimate and personal. One of the things that we're doing at the moment, and you might have seen, we worked with Kid Arcade to do. He had his Giant Size X-Men edition 222. It's his baby. He knows it's a nice edition number. It's not the most special, but on the back of the slab, it's been customized where it's actually got his artwork.
Um,
So for him and any supporter and fan of Kid Arcade, which I am personally, I think it just adds that other. The grade really probably doesn't matter too much on that. It's just the visual. It's just, I suppose, celebrating his work, and that's just one of the small things to come.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah. So is like the mint number the only thing you guys consider for grading, or do like factors like, is it minted freshly, or is it a purchased from the aftermarket, or how often did like the collectible been traded, for how long does someone held the collectible? Does that play a role in the grading process?
It's a great question because we when we started working out how we were going to end up grading, we did obviously contemplate that. We didn't want to take anything off the table, and we knew there was the way you could grade a concept based upon, like you said, length of ownership, whether you originally minted it and held it all that time. It ultimately just becomes a logistical nightmare, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of tracking involved in that, and then there is the argument that if someone has got a higher grade because they've owned an item, say, since inception, or it's only been traded once or twice. If it gets traded again, then you could, in theory, say it's downgrading every time, which might lose its appeal. So
Yeah.
we definitely thought on it, but we just thought, no, our version is going to be based upon the edition number. Similarly, you can grade, and there is a company out there which is BCG, who come out just after us, and their concept is based upon scarcity, which again is fine. It's a methodology. It won't be for everyone, but people that maybe want to collect purely on scarcity, they might find that that's better for them.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Yeah.
similar with the physicals, right? If you send your comic into CGC, right, the recognized brand, you get that back in a grade. That grade might give you some sense of what its valuation is in the market, which you can go collect and check out what certain grades are selling for and have an idea of what you could list it for on eBay or whatnot. But that's the same thing. So you would be selling that grade all the way down the line, regardless of how many times it had been resold. Um,
Mhm.
there is a category where we can look for like what was the first assets that were minted on the blockchain. And, you could, if you're the first of the first, or if you're the first public mint, for instance, if you're the top 5 of public mints that are available. We also know that Veve holds back, a certain number of assets each drop,
Yeah.
but eventually those could hit the market. They could hit museums, who knows? But, the first ever is like any asset. If it was back in the newspaper days, the fresh off the print was the term that people used, right? So
Yeah.
you can kind of put some parallels together from that. But I think at the end of the day, yes, it has to go back to a standardized form. That for us in our system is the edition number. And there will be a lot of different ways that people look at these, but that's for us. The grade comes from the number, the value comes from the market. And so we're
Mhm.
not telling anybody what they should be worth, what they should sell them for. We don't provide guidance there. That's not our forte.
Yeah.
Like we always say, and Daniel alluded to it earlier, like no one has to do this. Nobody has to have their asset graded. Exactly the same in the comic book world. I have vastly more raw copies in my collection than I do actual graded copies. The ones that I'm going to grade are going to have either very high personal meaning. There's a nostalgia factor. If Hanano's watching, nostalgia respark, we always use the hashtag. And then in some cases, it's just I want to have my asset either be protected so the air and fingers and all the stuff don't get at it, or it just wants to represent better on my shelf or my bookcase. And so there are a variety of reasons in the physical world that people grade, and there are many reasons that they don't grade. And we've had some great chats with other team members like at Comics and Crypto and whatnot, where we went right back. Like CGC's only been around since 2001, 2001, like 25 years in the grand scheme of things. That's not a very old business either. And in the early days, they got a lot of FUD. A lot of people were like, why are you can't grade these physical comics. Like, what are you doing? Because sometimes there's some fear involved, right? If you provide a service like grading and I don't participate, what does that mean to me and my assets? Am I putting them at risk? And I think at the end of the day, it's just, there's always going to be a percentage of a group that wants to participate because it's either fun, enjoyable, or there's a perceived potential value lift that they want to go after. And so you already see that with people purchasing at, special numbers at significant premiums over the floor, so what was his name, Daniel? This goes back like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. This fellow purchased the Marvel Comics #1, mint 1939 for $10,000. And I remember like, what have I done? And oh my gosh, and why? And but in my mind, I was like, if I had 10K US sitting around right now, there's no question I would have purchased that. That's one of the best assets in the app, because that's the system, the book that created everything that we know about comics today, basically from the Marvel system. Kind of back when Timely was becoming Marvel and they were going at DC, back and forth, and who was going to be the winner and all that kind of stuff. But it set the foundation of everything that we know today, and incredibly significant. So now you ask the question, well, there were 60,000 of them graded in our current world today, with the number of users and the NFT narrative and the amount of skepticism of what's going on in our space. We've got three kind of big things all hitting up against each other. So how do you differentiate when there's 60,000? Now we're in assets where there's maybe 2,000 or 3,000 available. These things. That makes it even harder sometimes to secure great mints. As Veve, when they launched Fantastic Four, was it issue 5? I think it was, where there wasn't going to be a 1961 or a 1965 mint number. I'm going back here a little bit, and the community went crazy. It was like, you got to increase the mint run so that number is included. And then Marvel had to approve it. So that goes right back to the basics, where not only Veve, Marvel, the IP itself, now recognizes the importance of mint numbers. Whether you want to try to stop it or fight it or prevent it, the reality is this is now part of the market and the ecosystem. And so that's where we thought, how can we help somebody get some emotional value out of it?
Yeah.
So and for me personally, some of the assets that I've, want to have graded, I have many. It's just like which ones, because you can only do so many at a time. And yeah, you pay for them. So, how many do you want to buy and pay for that you can afford? Because I know I struggle with it myself, right? Even in space, if I'm going to pay to have this graded, might mean I can't buy 1 or 2 more Veve assets this month. So where do you structure that, right? But that's to me the fun of this whole thing. So.
Yeah, and there is oh sorry, I was gonna say there is Um, Bobby Satz, I was going to say, actually, was the guy that's got the 1939. He's a fellow Brit. But yeah, I coined a phrase Chris usually says is about, this in some ways creates the easy button if you want to become a special mint collector, if you want to be more in that domain. So, you know, ultimately with what we're doing, especially over time as our back book builds up, is that people can really ignore the edition number to some extent, and then you'll purely be looking at the grade. We're putting it with the ones we're showcasing at the moment, because the submissions we're getting are generally the higher grades. There's going to be a lot more coming out that will be in the 7s, the 8s, and then the lower 9 territory as well. And I think that's going to be really important as this goes. And just like in real life, if you go on, say, Go Collect, and you want to look at a physical comic, it will have the grades going all the way down to your 0.5. The Silver Surfer, which is the one I think you alluded to, Chris, where they capped it at 1,000 initially.
Thank you.
They upped it to 2,000 to get that 1968, which, shout out to Comics and Crypto, picked it up, and I think they paid a solid $5,000 for it, which is unbelievable. But when we run the catalogue on that, so we looked at the common cover, and we looked at all grades that could achieve a 9.0 or above in our grading methodology. And there was, I want to say there was 34 excluding the public, the non-public available edition numbers. And there was no 10.0s. There was one 9.9, one 9.8, and it showed how scarce some of these comics could be. And that is in my opinion, a growl. And the common cover is obviously the OG. But I think over time, as we sort of develop further, we'll launch our grading census that will be available on a website, accessible to all. That will start showing just how important some of these grades can be. And just earlier today, now this might not be the most special number you can get, but I picked up Fantastic Four 49, which is Galactus' first appearance. And again, shout out to Stackar, I don't know if you use Stackar, they're doing unbelievable things at the moment, but someone had listed it on there for, I think, just over $2, 614. Now, if you're a Fantastic Four fan, 61 is the year that they come out and was the start of the Marvel era, and then 4 is just simply to signify Fantastic Four. We've not graded that yet. That might hit something in the 8 region potentially, but that individual potentially could have realized maybe a stronger value of what they actually sold it for. And as much as we're not saying we're going to talk about the monetary side of things, I think it does maybe create a little bit more awareness where someone goes and floors an item when really it could probably demand a little bit more. And something we've seen as well only recently is that and Sean at Comics and Crypto did this with his the one-of-one stamp that he hit, is that you could actually use the slab and I suppose the material that we send over to be able to market a listing. Again, it's not that something we'd encourage, and we're not doing it for that reason, but the reality is once we send someone over those slab visuals, they can go and put it on X and they can go and advertise a listing. And that might just give a bit more, again, awareness and more of a, I suppose, a visual appetite of what
definitely. As I said before, like the visuals, honestly.
Like when we can finally, like when everybody could position those, let's say in the Veve verse or other metaverses that may pop up in the next whoever knows how many years, right? But that could be again the same as somebody physically wanting to flex their graded copy in their home when their friends come over, or family, or dinners, and all kinds of things, like, hey, check out what I got. Now you're going to be able to do that easily without fear of loss, theft, plastic packaging. One of the things when you send your books away to get graded, if you've done this, right, Jan, like you're waiting. It's kind of like when you used to buy.
And maybe they're not even coming back because UPS or DHL lost the package.
And I see the trucks coming up front of my house, and they leave packages out in the middle of the driveway for anybody to come. If you're not, like, our neighbors, we all have a network. It's like, a package just arrived. Can someone please go grab it quick? Because you don't know if someone's following the guest truck to grab their packages, right? It's a disaster. It really is. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people lose their assets, have them stolen, they get damaged in transport. Then you're
Yeah.
fighting insurance issues. If you even got insurance, some people don't pay for the extra insurance. The time lag, you get it back and it's not a grade that you were hoping for. And so then you resubmit. Like, it's a great, great system that helps provide a great level of here's what that book actually is worth when it all works out perfectly. And so we're
Yeah.
saying that's great for physicals, but it doesn't necessarily mean the same thing for digitals. And so how can we take that excitement and emotion and reason that you would want to grade your physical asset and represent that to the digital collecting space? And as we've often mentioned, Veve's now sold between 6 and 7 million digital comic books. This
Yep.
is not a small market that's happenstance. This is a system with hundreds of thousands of people that own, trade. Um, yeah, everything's down a little bit right now. That's the whole overall market, but we're thinking about this longer term, right? Because like I said, the grading system took 25 years to get to where it is today to be trusted and believed, and everybody
So
knows
you guys have like 24 and a half years left
what a
to
runway. Yeah.
work.
Yeah. And
Um,
that's the thing. And for me, one of the things that factored into how this all started, very early on, and I give a shout out to Denis when he watches this too, because through Veve, we realized that we only lived about 15 minutes away from each other, and we met
right.
on Aaron, my collectibles live stream, who is not that far from us either. So
Mhm.
Aaron made a comment about how I'm over in Victoria, Vancouver Island. I'm going to be coming to Vancouver soon. Maybe we can do a meetup. And Denis and I were both like, "Oh, we're here." I'm like, "Hey, what?" And
Yeah.
next thing you know, it's like, "Well, let's meet up for a beer or two." And we started talking about how are we collecting differently, because the one thing that we really tried to do was be a little unique from where everybody was chasing the same thing. And that's where he mentioned, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting this 1962 Spider-Man mint number, and what do you think?" And then that led to, well, yeah, okay, on AF-15, and how about ASM number 1? Like March 1963 is when that published. And well, then what if we chased like the 363s, the 3063, the 6310s, like everything that has reference to the first edition of Amazing Spider-Man number 1? Yeah, I don't think anyone's doing that. And
Yeah.
so we were going out, and then because somebody would see that and it just looked like a 3,000 mint number out of 30,000 run. And on the grading scale we had at the time, that was like a 12%, on your score of how it ranked. And we were like, that's March 1963. I see that number clearly when I see it on the mint. So I'm grabbing that. And so we were getting those at retail, under retail, because people didn't know. And to me, that equated to when I used to collect physicals a lot more. When you would go to a garage sale and someone had a box of comic books, and you're flipping through them and you're looking for the right ones, and you're trying to maybe evaluate them against your Go Collect and whatnot. Or you'd go to a comic book store and you'd go to the back at the bargain bins and you were trying to see something that somebody missed. Or you're collecting a 4-run series that I was missing, like issue number 3, and like all those aspects of the hunt that made the physical collecting so fun. Mint number hunting is how I equated that in digital. And
Hmm.
I still, at 5 years in, I still find numbers that show up, and I go into marvel.com, or I go sometimes Wikipedia, sometimes I ask chat, sometimes I go to Go Collect, or I go to the Marvel fandom. Like, there's so many resources now that you can say, how does that number have meaning? Or you can even ask chat or Grok. Like, we have these
Yeah.
tools now that even 5 years ago we didn't have. And so, why is 363 significant for Amazing Spider-Man number 1? And it will come back and tell you. And then you can make a decision if that's worthwhile to pay what the asking price is. We talk
Yeah.
about this a lot because Veve, I don't know if they're listening, maybe, I've put this into the help tab thingy quite a few times, but they need to get the search bar function fixed so that I can look for these things quickly and
Mhm.
easily. but there's also no way in the market to describe what I'm selling, right? We have lots of listings with lots of prices attached, and they go from $2 on a, right now, I think Daredevil #1 is hovering around $2.50, $3. Yeah. Anyways, and then my favorite side note, but all the way up to tens of thousands of dollars. And if you're new to the market or you're looking at this, you're like, I don't understand why someone is asking whatever it is. I think it was like $120,000 for the 646 palindrome, right? Or the 464, whatever it was. Well, April 64 is when that book came out, and it's a 3 palindrome, but I can't tell anybody that in the market. So now if you have an asset that maybe has a grade and a slab on it, and to Daniel's point, I could use that to explain to others, here's why this has value. It's even graded, and they recognized that a third party had a look at this and said, yeah, they agree with me. There's some significance here. So again, that to me, it's another way to help educate our audiences and our users to say, yeah, look up what those numbers are. What do you have that could have meaning? And maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe though it's the difference between you listing an asset for $3 on the floor under retail or putting it up for $30. And to some people, that is a significant amount of money. A lot of people, I never judge, because for someone who $30 is a lot of money, other people that's $3,000. We're all different in what our income and capabilities and tolerances are. So what we want to do is just say, hey, if a number has some type of importance to it that's recognizable, then we want to help share what that could mean. So.
Okay, let's say I want one of my comics graded. First of all, how much is it? Is it a fixed price, or do you have different tiers of prices?
Yeah, so we're initially running with an intro pricing structure, which is going to run to the end of the year. So the entry point is $9, so USD. That will give someone the ability to have their item graded. So we'll actually give a grading number to it. And then we'll do it in what we call our grading card, which is our equivalent to a certificate. So recently we did that one for, say, Duck and Cover, had his Iron Man 1 done. We did a Galactus one more recently as well. So that's the entry point. And then we've got an uplift on that at $15, which is the grade, the card bit. That's when it actually does the slab that you've probably seen as well, in terms of the 3D slab. So we did put some thought into how we would intro this. The first few weeks, we very much focused on doing some giveaways, just working with some individuals who want to do some showcasing. We had many requests coming in saying, basically, how do I pay? Like, it was like, can you invoice me? It's like, oh, look, we want to just get through these first few weeks. We want to test the market. So yeah, we've done this intro pricing, then we're going to reflect on it come the end of that period and see what it's going to be. It's probably very easy for us to be greedy and try and do a money grab. I don't think you really could in this market. I don't think there's enough for user base anyway. But that's the complete opposite of our intention with this. I know I've had good chats with collectors that maybe want to participate, but they would really not want to spend a penny doing this. And it might be similar in the real world. They might want to grade, they just might not like the cost involved. But the beauty is they can participate in the giveaways, because we're going to be doing those frequently. So it still allows people to get involved if they don't really want to go too heavy on it. On the giveaway front as well, by the time this comes out, and we had a couple of comments very early on, which again I appreciate, but there was a couple saying like, he's pumping his bags, it's a money grab. Those statements will age like milk very soon. So Nova 1, which dropped a few months back now. So the 1976 edition number on that is the publication year. Comics and Crypto had a bounty out for $1,000. I had a bounty out for $1,300, and Veve kindly gifted that to us at Chris and I at California Comics. Just as a bit of a reward for our sort of input in comics. We're going to give that away for absolutely free. So yeah,
nice.
And there's about another 11 comics and collectibles we're going to include in this giveaway to the end of the year, that have got good value in from a monetary sense. We know we're going to grade it, slab it, and give them away. So yeah, But yeah, so that's how we're going ahead with the
Okay,
pricing
so
point now.
$15 is like the highest tier, as you can say. So I choose like the highest tier. What happens after that? Please walk me like through the grading process, and is like I would say are the grading rules and the scoring methods, is it public? So I, as a collector, can take a look at those scoring methods and reason around it.
Yeah, so we won't advertise our whole grading formula, because it's, I suppose, in some ways giving away the secret sauce. I think over time, someone, if they really wanted to, could try and reverse engineer it and get as close as they can to it. But what we will do every time we give a delivery to someone. So I'll go back a second. So if someone wants to submit, at the moment they just drop us a DM. We guide them through the process. It's very simple in terms of just getting their Veve username, the item, and the edition number. And then at that point, we put it in our submission log. Depending on the obscurity of the edition number or the story behind it, we'll put it out in our group chat between Chris, I, and our graders. And then we'll just have a debate on where that should maybe fall within our grading formula. You know, there's many that we get at the moment that we've already assigned a grade to, which makes it a little bit easier. And then at that point, we then actually go away, build the slab, which is not an easy job, you know, in terms of we've got templates set, but you know, these things take time. So we go ahead, build the assets, and then we email it out to the client, being the slab, the card. We give them an MP4 file and the image. And then that grade then goes into our census. What we will be doing, and I say I wouldn't want to put a definitive timeline on it, but it is going to be in the soon category, is we'll have an app. Yeah, we'll have an app where people be able to go and access their items that they've graded, and be able to view it in a different sort of format, I guess, and have it a little bit more personable. And in due course, these will be going on chain as NFTs. So there'll be that aspect too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. That sounds really, really good. We've talked about Chris. We've talked about earlier about like the physical grading and sending your comic, for example, to CGC, getting it back, and you see, oh damn it, an 8 point whatever. I thought it's a 9 point. So you crack up like the case and send it back in. Is that possible with your DGG service? So, for example, I get my comic back in a grade where I'm like, damn, I thought it would be better. Is there a possibility?
Yeah, you want to answer, Daniel?
Yeah, it was, again, it's a great question. So I would say the key grades we've assigned, you know, we did that before launch. So, you know, a Marvel asset with Stanley's date of birth, whether that's his year or his month year, it could even be his death date. We've appointed a grade to these already that we feel works well. There will be, on rare occasions, we'll grade something where he'll hear real strong community feedback and we might upscale it. So we had one recently where we did it was the matching issue number. So if someone had, in this case, Amazing Spider-Man 252, they had Mint 252. We were originally doing that as a 9.9. And it was, before we launched, it was close to a 10. But then we easily adapted that and said, actually, no, we've listened, and now it's 10.0. There'd be some scenarios, we've only actually once, surprisingly, where someone come back and they challenged. It was all right and fair, but we basically said, no, look, we've put it here because of X, Y, and Z, and we just give a rationale behind it, and they were fine. So yeah, I would say we'd always listen to feedback, but it's never a guarantee we're going to change, because I suppose we have to stay true to the way we've graded in the first instance.
Yeah. And sometimes too, someone might submit something that they have a different viewpoint on what the number means, right? Like if 252, for instance, this is going to be a bad example, but if 252 ASM had come out in 2025, right? Well, that would be a 25-year palindrome 3-digit that could rank as a fancy mint, if that. And sometimes we get feedback where the potential customer wants to have the color of the category because it just looks stunning, represent the cover. And in some cases, maybe they take a slight reduction in the grade because they want the visual nature represented. And so a little bit of flexibility on that for sure. But that's where, when we're going through the submission process, we ask for some feedback. Where do you see it? Because it's very similar when you go to CGC, for instance, you're going to pay a higher price for something like a Silver Age book that is going to grade exceptionally well. You have a predetermined reason to make that investment. It's come back at least an 8.8 or something, 8.5 higher. Right? In this case, we also don't want people to be upset, but the reality is not everything is going to grade above 9. And I always say one of my goals, I don't have one yet, but I would love to have an 8 or an 8.5 CGC. I don't know if you can see it here, but my right? But an 8.5 physical would be wondrous. And so that's also, we want to make sure that the community knows, like, not everything is graded 9 and up just for the sake of getting great grades on these things. There's a lot that has to go into it.
But I guess, sorry to interrupt. I guess currently, like, the digital grading is so niche that people who send you guys collectibles, send in collectibles for grading, they probably know beforehand that those are good ones, right?
Yeah, they might have done some of the homework, and sometimes they haven't. And they're just like, I just want to know what you guys think, and I'm just happy that for $15, I just put it in a grade and slab, and then I can show it off. And then now you're starting to see some narrative on socials where people are like, I didn't even think about this before. I've got this, this, and this. Now I can go and pair them, or I didn't think about it that way before. Oh, I'm going after these. Like, if we're sparking a little bit of excitement, that's great. It's like, I've got a stack here. I'll show this one. Here's my Veve man. Alex, if you're watching, right? Signed by Devo, who created this cover.
Oh, yeah.
It's in a baggie with a board. It's got its information on when it was signed. I'm probably going to put this one into a hard plastic cover. Right? Just another plastic cover. And here's an example from Key Comics, right? So my Star Wars #1, very, very hard plastic cover. It's not graded, but it's a signed. I don't know if you can see it in the shine in here, but it's signed. I don't want this to get ruined. So I'm very happy to spend a little bit more to have a better protective case until I decide to get it graded. And then, right, there are all the way down, and shout out to Gary O for bringing this back from New York Comic Con last year, right? But signed by David Yu and Dan, and graded right on the spot at Comic Con by CGC, back with a nice 9.8. Well done, Gary, again, right? Everything about this, I'm going to keep this in this thing forever, but it's never going to get opened and whatnot. But this is something that, sure, when anyone comes by, I'm going to show that off. But 3 different reasons to have 3 different types of grades done on 3 different assets. That's the vision for digital grading. Not everything's going to be perfect. Not everything has to be the high spend. Some people are just going to want to have it in a slab because it looks nice and they can show it off. And we want it to be at price points that were respective of that. We don't want to turn people away. We want more excitement than just trying to make this sort of a high niche within a big potential market. And over the years, and let's all assume that, knock on wood, this is going the way that we all believe it is, that within several years, tokenization of real world assets is on the way. And this is, not getting into crypto talk and all that, but when you see things like Ethereum and all these different tokenized blockchain systems being able to recreate your mortgage contract, your car lease and finance contract, legitimizing artwork for artists, solidifying scarcity. I always use a fun story from when I was a kid. My parents took me to this big It's called Stanley Park, big famous park in Vancouver. And there was an art show, and my parents purchased what the artist said was the only one he made. And they loved it, and they took it home and they hung it and they showed everybody. And there was this great story. And a month later, we went back to the park, and there he was, and he had 10 of them laid out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, so of course my mom
Yeah.
brought it back through.
Yeah.
There's no way to know. So
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
one of the things, and I give Go Collect a lot of credit always, because they're tracking graded sales of physical assets, but very difficult to tell. Like, we might know that there's 65 Marvel comic #1 physicals graded, so extremely scarce, but we don't know how many are sitting in basements or someone's house that didn't even know it was a comic
True.
book. So you don't have that actuality. And I think in our case, you do know at least that it's finite. And I always like to say 60,000 copies of a Fantastic Four #1, for instance, seems like a lot. But boy, if you're a Marvel fan and you know the significance of Fantastic Four, do you think there's more than 60,000 Marvel fans in the world that might one day want just one?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. And so to me, it's the numbers. Okay, so now you can have that niche within the niche and have the fun on the collecting side of it, but you're still operating. The debate, Sleep and Comics used to have this, Comics and Crypto used to have this. There's an inflection point between scarcity and popularity. And when those two things actually meet and you could somehow arrive at having both within each other, that's a kind of a key pivotal moment. It's the 1939 on the MC1. It's the 252. It's the 1961, and then the variants on that. Like, yes, the 1961 Fantastic Four #1, probably a 10.0. But what about we always say, what about the 11161? November 1st, 61. What about the 8061? So August of 61 is when the book actually was produced to go to the comic book stores. That's defined by Marvel. And so these numbers you can actually reference, they're validated. You can find the information. And that's what we're basically doing as a service, is to say, firm that. We'll go out and we'll curate all the research that's available, and that's how we filter that into our grading system and come back with these.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, totally get it.
Yeah.
Chris, I think you have to bounce here really soon. That's why I want to ask like the last question to you, to both of you. Where do you guys personally see digital grading in like the future? Like, for example, in 5 years, where do you see it?
Yeah.
Or where would you like to see it? Maybe that's the better phrasing.
Yeah, we know there's a benefit of being early, and I think just the space as a whole, I think we can all categorize ourselves as being early if we truly believe that digital collecting is going to be something that's going to be part of the future. So I think there's a definite benefit of us doing grading in the way we have and doing it first. We have got plans to be here for the long term. So at the moment, this is just all foundation building, probably no different to what Veve did in the past or still do, is that we're just trying to build out our product, make it as visually appealing as possible and just have as much reach. So yeah, we're gearing up that this will be something that can go more mainstream once the masses come in. But it's important to us to obviously have something that's viable right now for the client base as it is. So yeah, but we're not kidding ourselves. We know others will come into this space and look to compete and emerge with us, whether they're direct competitors or something that's a similar product. And we really embrace that. I suppose it's going to be up to us to what we can deliver. In terms of having something that is a credible grading system and something in that does actually work with collectors and enhances their experience. I think the one thing that we're not going to be someone that's going to shield this. This is very much there. We'll put it out there. We'll get good exposure to it, and it's going to be a choice. I think that's the main thing. 'Cause we know there's some people that will just hate grading. Period. There's some people that will be out there that will say that this could potentially impact their bags, whether they say it or not. And that's, again, we totally understand that. This makes special mints more obvious, and that potentially can impact the market price potentially.
Yeah.
but then on the flip side, we'll get some people that will absolutely love this, and that's the thing we're seeing more. It surprised me actually. I think when we launched this, we were doing this. We had a 7-year idea in terms of we could grade 3 items a day from our own back book for 7 years. We don't have to take a penny. As long as we're passionate enough, we can keep doing that. We got inundated, and like even yesterday, we had a 20 submission from one collector. We had with
Nice.
we're just getting constant DMs come in without us even really trying to push it. And I think that's what our plan is. We're here for those people that want to participate, and then we'll see how it goes. But the good thing is we're not here to turn like that. We're not here to turn any short term gain, and we can operate for a long term without doing that. And I think that probably puts us in quite a good position.
Mhm.
Sounds like it. Yeah, definitely. Chris.
That's such a great question, Jan. And, I don't want to undermine or forget to credit some of the early pioneers in this. Right? I referenced Comics and Crypto earlier for their initial grading guide, which took a lot of flack. And, but they worked through it. But it also said, hey, you know what? Like there was an appetite for this. And so it was an early entry. And then you had, I think it was called Secret Rare, that was doing some slabs, but no grading involved. And then you had Cherry Charts. And I always like to give a shout out. I was a huge Cherry Chart user because it was so simple, right? You just put your mint number in the title and the cover variant, and you had a PDF spit out that you could actually put some commentary in about why that was important to you beyond just it was a 38 out of 100% mint. It's like, no, this was this launch and first appearance of this character and blah, blah, blah. And if I'm not mistaken, like 6 digits were the number that he put out, that company put out, that like a lot of people grab Cherry Charts just for the fun of it. And then to post them on socials and say, look what I've got. And this is so great. And it just elevated the experience again. And that's kind of gone away. So now that was 4 years ago. Veve had been around for about a year when those things started coming out. And so in 4 years, here we are today with millions of assets in the app now.
Oh, yeah.
So much, right? But there really is something for everyone. And so you could have a Peach Momoko, you could have a Stan Lee, you could have a Stanley Gibbons, right? But there's numbers attached to them. And if we can help you have a little more fun in that experience. And ultimately, I think within the next several years, as this grows and more people are active in this space, they're going to see how much fun it was to get your comic and your digital asset graded and slabbed and show it off. And guess what? Now you might go to your comic book store and pick up the physical to match it. And you might just send that physical into CGC to have physically graded as well, because you understand the experience now. And I've written about this kind of stuff on Go Collect now for about 4 years, 3-4 years. And we are not trying to detract, undermine, or take away anything from anyone's physical collecting passion. It's the same mantra here as what Veve's doing. We are trying to enhance the experience, make it more enjoyable, bring more fun back to the world of collecting. David Yu just put out an article that I just republished. Thanks to David for letting us do this. We put it back on Go Collect about where NFTs in general going to be. And it's all about collecting the fandom, not necessarily the finance. Fans will follow their brands. And if the brands are saying, we are now preferring to move forward in a digital first format, the market will follow. Of course, it's going to take years for that to happen. And some products you can't digitally recreate Coca-Cola. I mean, I still have to drink it, right? But there's things that make sense to be digitized, tokenized. And I think the comic book space is ripe for this, because there are markets around the world that don't even have access to comic books, have very few local comic book stores, rely on just the movies for the experience. Here's another way to connect your fandom to a global audience that doesn't have the limitations of distribution and shipping and all the other asset issues that we have in physical. There's a new market. And if that new market is deciding to grab onto this, and we can help at least explain some of the history of where these assets came from. You know, your new comic buyers generally are focusing on newer comics. They're seeing the movies, they're buying the assets that are coming out in the comic book store. I wrote an article on Go Collect, and I was surprised the amount of feedback I got that most people didn't even know Marvel Comics #1 really existed, or what it was, or what it represented. Veve
Yeah.
has to re-educate a massive amount of people to that.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
ASM1 and all the other books that a lot of people had no clue that these things even existed. Now they know. Now they're buying and trading them, and they're learning about them, and we get to be a part of that process. I think for me that's very exciting, and that's a large part of why we're doing this. So
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and to add to that, and I think this is, we're not doing it as our primary reason for doing it, but we know this potentially adds another bridge. It might not be the key bridge, but it allows people in the physical world to have something that they can see similar to the something in the digital world that they can reminisce and see similar to the physical world. And that was one of the reasons why we kept the slab design something quite consistent, our own unique twist to it, but something that actually looks quite similar to what you would have in real life anyway.
Yeah.
yeah.
Got it. Okay, so where could people find you and your services if they are interested in digital grading? Give yourself a shout out so that people can find you.
Yeah, so we're on our socials, so it's the DGC grading socials account. So that's where we put most of our output on X. We'll soon be on Instagram, and then our website will be coming soon as well. But again, I think what was, I really appreciate obviously us having this interview game, because I know, yeah, we've got utmost respect for all the work you do in the space. And I think the moment you said, "I just not too sure, don't really get it," or whatever feelings you may have, we would much rather sit down and speak with someone like yourself, because it gives us brilliant insight. It's great being on a stream or talking to someone that already understands this or loves this, or might just want to say yes for yes sake. But I think for us, it's really, really insightful and great to have someone like yourself who can give us that feedback, and that obviously will go beyond this interview as well.
Right.
Yep, definitely. I mean, I'm definitely way more educated about digital grading than before, and I hope for those who are still watching, they learned a ton about digital grading and about your guys' vision. So, yeah, thanks for being here, and for everyone who's still watching. If you like this discussion, please let us all know down in the comments what was like your favorite part, or where do you have like maybe open questions or something. Please write it down in the comments, and you will probably also like this playlist or this interview here. So check it out, and see you next time, and happy collecting, guys. Bye bye.
Thanks,
So, yeah.
everyone. Thank you, Jan.